Hi everyone. I report to you today from Austria, where according to Facebook, I spend most of my time and where I certainly make all my decisions from. I hope you enjoyed the conversation around those questions. They're certainly not intended to say we're doing things wrong all the time. They are encouraging you to start conversations around the topic of how people really learn. And hopefully, as we learn more about this process, we can get better at designing learning environments that are even better than the ones we currently have. So to the questions that we asked you, the first one I want to talk about has to do with Mozart. Mozart was born right here in Salzburg, Austria. And at an early age, when he wasn't even 10 years old, he was just wowing people all across Europe with his musical skill. He also had what's called perfect pitch. So if you played a note for Mozart on whatever instrument, or even if you sneezed, he could tell you what note you just sneezed or played. And that's an ability that's very rare. Estimates are somewhere from 1 every 10,000 people to maybe 1 in every 2,000 or 3,000 people that have perfect pitch. And for the longest time, it was assumed that people are born with that ability. Well, it turns out they're not. There was an experiment where students under the age of 4 were moved through certain practices that involved playing on the piano, certain chords, and then over time, every single one of them developed perfect pitch. Even adults can learn it, although it's much more difficult because brain plasticity, doesn't quite work the same anymore in adults, and so some things just get more difficult. But children can learn to develop this and keep perfect pitch over time. And so what that means is that this concept of innate ability is really overrated when it comes to learning. And to me, that's very, very encouraging because it means kids can learn a whole lot more things than we previously thought possible. One of the other questions that we asked you had to do with memory, so that people can remember approximately 7 or so random digits because of limitations in memory. And that is also false because there are examples of people who through training improve that significantly. So Steve Falloon is one of the most famous examples. Carnegie Mellon did a research study in the 1970s, and Steve Falloon was one of the test subjects, and he could remember approximately 7 random digits, maybe 8. He always stumbled at 9. And so the researchers put him through this very purposeful practice. And as a result, Steve Falloon was able to remember 82 random digits, 1 every second, and he could remember up to 82 of those. And that was an amazing result because it threw out a lot of the existing knowledge about these limitations of memory. And I think by 2015, the record was up to something like 450 random numbers that someone could remember. And so again, it challenges the idea of these memory limits, and it establishes the idea that it is really practice, and particularly purposeful practice, deliberate practice at the right level of difficulty that enables things in the brain that previously were just thought to be impossible. It's really related to a concept in video games. Beth Webb from Spotswood High School sent me a video just recently about video games and how they really encourage learning. So video games are challenging the players to get better at whatever the task is. And if you mess up, you go back a level, and so then you might progress again. And so you're always working on this borderline just outside your comfort zone. And that's really, really important. It's the practice at the right level with the right level of difficulty and continued practice. And that's also what encourages people to practice more. The motivation is much greater when a problem is exactly at the right level. And that, of course, reminds me of motivation in other areas. We find challenges much more interesting if we can relate to them and if they're at a level of difficulty where we can solve them, but where they're not so easy that it's just a cakewalk, right? And so no one would buy a video game where Mario sits in his cart and just drives straight, and that's it. That'd be boring. But if he has to overcome obstacles and he has to, solve all kinds of challenges, then that gets us hooked, and that's where we get interested in a problem. And I think in part, that's also how life works, right? We are interested in things that have challenges, but that are challenges we can relate to. So when we think about movies that we enjoy, for example, think about the movie Titanic. We know the outcome already. We wouldn't go to the movies if the movie was about the ship leaving and then sinking, right? We enjoy it because there are challenges, there's a love story, there are all kinds of twists and turns and events that make that movie memorable. And so that's why we enjoy it. Over the next few months, we will learn a whole lot more about how learning works, what parts of learning are frustrating to students when they're in school, and how we can really apply what we learn about the brain to improve our learning environments, to create challenges for students that are at the right level. That's difficult work. It's hard work. And I promise you that we will find ways to support you, to provide you with time during the school day, to provide you with resources that help you with that. Because again, you need that support. We ask a lot. We ask that people reconsider how we design learning environments. And in order for that to work, we need to make sure that we give you those resources. You are all experts in education, and so we can have great conversation. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend. And I know you're going to get your books, or maybe in some places you've already gotten them. Enjoy the reading, and I look forward to future conversations on this topic. Have a great evening. Thank you.